Merry Christmas.
This is very special. All eyes are on you. But one thing I would like from Santa would be a win.
Relax. It's Christmas. Let's have some fun. Let's go.
Poked away by Giannis. Could be fun. To the rack. Took that Christmas gift away.
7 blocks for Rudy Gobert tonight.
All about the defense.
That is beautiful. How pretty is that?
Oh, what a pass.
Way to move the ball.
And James Harden's a problem for everybody. He is picking this team apart.
Uncle Drew with another one. Can't get a handle on Kyrie Irving. Wow! Uncle Drew strikes again.
Hey, it's Christmas. You can do what you want on Christmas.
James shaking up on that play. Built the pop.
Stevenson throws it up quickly and nails it.
Without LeBron James, this is a blowout victory for the Lakers in Oracle Arena.
Throw it to Mitchell. What a pass and finish. Gobert throws it down and a foul.
From all of us to all of you.
Merry Christmas.
Welcome back to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols here with Amin Elhassan and George Sedano. I love that Mike Breen was just undone by Lance Stevenson.
Also, did we find out if Chauncey had TV on his flight back? He kept talking about
he did.
He kept complaining about no TV on the flight out to New York.
We'll update for you by the end of the show. Guys, stop me if you've heard this before, but Kyrie Irving is good at the basketball. Last night, he scored 40 points to go along with 10 rebounds, put the team on his back in the fourth quarter and overtime. Afterward, he talked about what inspired him.
I told my teammates, I came in the locker room, I said, man, my family's here to watch me play. I got like 20 plus people from my family here, so I'm acting up. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, I'm so excited. I never really get a chance to have my family all in one place, most of my family for that matter. So it means a lot to me. They haven't really seen me play since I was like a kid. Everybody here, my aunts, my uncle, my friends, it just meant a lot to me. And I'm here to play for my family and my teammates. So, it's just the Christmas spirit, man. I missed it.
That's awesome. And by the way, again, we were talking at the top of the show about how at least those of us on set have experienced what happens to you after you get into your mid-30s. Athletes who play in the NBA are just like everyone who they want to do well when their auntie is in the crowd. They want to do well when their cousins are there. They're like anyone else, and I love hearing that from him, that it mattered to him. Just even if you're playing in overtime on Christmas Day, does he have to do that more often? Do we need to ship the auntie in more often?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Right? The whole point about the Celtics' depth is that no one should ever have to feel that burden often, even if they are capable of doing it. Look, he's by far the most accomplished, the most devastating offensive weapon they have. But again, we just got done talking about James Harden and how it can't be like that. Well, Boston isn't Houston. They actually have other options, and they're at their best when you can't key in on any one guy. And while having a guy who can do that is an amazing thing to have in the cupboard, should not be something they do every single day.
So I will disagree slightly in the sense of I don't think it needs to happen maybe even early in games, but at the end of games, that's what he does best, is he's the closer, right? Jimmy Butler talked about it afterwards when they asked him, and he's like, yeah, man, that's just him. That's just who he is. That's what he does. So maybe at the end of games, you want that guy to be your closer, but he doesn't have to be the guy to carry them 40 points. Like when we were talking about James Harden earlier, the Celtics, as you pointed out, are in a different situation with all those players that they have. But at the end of games, he's clearly the guy that wants the ball.
That we just showed that shot that he hit over Butler and it kind of trickled in. But there was 5 to 6 basketball moves that came with. Jimmy Butler played as perfect a defense as you can. And he's 6'8", and Kyrie's just like, okay.
Like 6'9" with a hair. So, get all of that together. No, I mean, the only reason I would like to see him do this a little more is that there has been a little bit on the Celtics this year of, okay, who's doing this? Who's got, where's everyone's role? How is this all fitting together? Sometimes maybe you need Kyrie to be like, y'all figure out the rest of this. I'm the guy who's doing this now in these kinds of games, and then you guys can just kind of figure that out around me.
The Celtics remind me of that kind of like 8th grade prom, like when you don't know how to lead dancing or whatever. Like that's kind of the thing they're doing right now. They don't know who's leading, and Kyrie's just like, forget it. I'll take the lead. You guys follow.
I mean, that's what he did. And there's been times he stepped back, though. So I'm kind of more on George's side on this, that I'd like to see him do it a little more often. Again, though, we expect him to be playing at least until May. They got like 4 or 5 months to figure this out.
I knew what to do in prom.
I'm sure you did, buddy. She didn't think so, probably, though, is my guess.
Hey, look, it's Joel Embiid. Stuffing the stat sheet last night, 34 points, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks in the Sixers' overtime loss. On their side of the equation, it was his 16th 30-10 game this season, but afterward, he sounded frustrated, lack of touches down the stretch.
I felt like I could have done more. I didn't get the ball, or the ball didn't find me in the fourth and in overtime. So in those situations, I got to show up, but then also I got to be put in the right situations to be able to like help the team. And I felt like I wasn't in the right situation, so I felt like I could have done more. We lost. I put this heavily on me because I know I could have done more.
Why do you think it went away from you in the second half?
Don't know. Got to ask coach.
Interesting stuff, George. The ball didn't find me. And then also, you got to ask coach there at the end. What do you make of all that?
I'm with him. Look, that last shot in regulation by J.J. Redick. J.J.'s a great shooter. Like, no one's denying that. And he actually had a good game yesterday. But I was sitting there yelling at the TV and going, why aren't you getting it to Embiid? Like, he's a guy that not only can create something for you there down low or even a little further away from the basket, but he's a pretty good free throw shooter, too. So if he got fouled, you had a guy you could trust at the line, too. Yeah, I was stunned by the decision, particularly right there at the end of regulation.
I think when we talk about overall the end of the game, we're kind of neglecting who they're playing like the number 2 defense in the. Right. He's making it seem like he's wide open and the guy with the ball like, nah, coach said we want to go this way. No, he's being very well defended in terms of ball denial up top. And then, quite frankly, he wasn't getting great position towards the end of the game. He was floating out further and further from the basket. And I get it. It can be frustrating for a great player because the loss happens and the cameras and the microphones are in your face. Like, well, if I had the ball, I'd be able to do something about it. But part of it also, you have to tip your hat to. It's not like this happened against a lackadaisical defense. He was being well defended, and the Sixers were being well defended.
Well, this is a team, for me, it's kind of the opposite of what I just said about the Celtics. I feel like the Celtics have all the pieces they need, and they got 5 months to figure out to the point where they've got to be at their absolute apex about how all those pieces work together. The Sixers made a big trade, right?
Yeah.
It was definitely a good move for them. It seems like bringing Jimmy in gives them that big 3 that they were hoping for with Markelle Fultz that hadn't worked out yet. And you mentioned Jimmy's defense during this segment. He has been playing great for them in that sense. They still need shooting.
Yeah,
that is such an obvious point of when you look at the way these guys play. And I'm watching Joel, who for the past month has been more and more verbal about being frustrated. And you don't want to let that build up for another month. And I know, look, I don't want to imply that getting shooters is just like, going to the store and grabbing some Bisquick. Like, I get it. Elton Brand is trying.
It's a great reference.
Well, I'm just saying.
That's what you go to the store for?
Instant pancakes.
Right there. That was my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just found out Rachel Nichols is like Michael Jackson. What do you think a gallon of milk costs? Like $70?
My point is, it's not like I'm saying, it's fine. Elton Brand has been working on it. But this is getting to an urgent point, and not because, the Sixers are plummeting down in the standings, but chemistry is a delicate thing. Joel Embiid liked Jimmy Butler when he got there. Jimmy Butler liked Joel Embiid. Those guys have a very similar mindset in the way they play basketball. They play hard. They play defense. You want this to work.
Yeah.
And you need to then have some of the other parts of the team and the other positions on the floor in place so both of these guys can do what they do best instead of them starting to, and in this particular case, Joel, starting to chafe
over
and
other things. Yeah. This is all I can say is last year they had the shooting, but we forget because they played so well in that stretch. Bellinelli, Ilyasova, those guys were buyout guys that they got in the middle of the year. Yeah. And so Philly, from what I'm hearing is part of that is they expect the buyout market to be fruitful again.
But they're not the only ones who need shooting. Oklahoma City really needs shooting. There's a bunch of teams
Lakers
out there. Yeah. Yes, there's a bunch of teams out there that I think
everyone
are
needs
looking for those
every
kinds
year,
of
everyone
guys.
needs shooting.
Well, I'm interested. By the way, the Ilyasova thing and him switching teams middle of free agency, right, was like one of the weirdest things. I don't know. Sticking with the Sixers and GM Elton Brand. Remember when he said he was unsure whether Fultz would play again this season? Well, now Markelle's agent, Raymond Brothers, told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that Fultz is progressing well in rehab. Brothers expects Fultz to return to the team this season. This is not the first time. We have heard differing accounts from Raymond Brothers and the team. They've both ended up being right in different situations. It's never usually about the same thing. If you're running the Sixers, do you look to move Fultz?
I don't. First of all, I thought Elton's answer was perfect, right? It's not committal. He's coming back. It's not committal. He's not coming back. It's a very vague answer with a very open end on the back end. That's how you're supposed to do it. That is GMing 101, and he did a terrific job with that. In terms of moving Fultz, again, I got to go back to, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say you got to go out and get shooting. But I don't think you can get good assets for him right now, right? He's got to go back out there and show that he's better, and this is all behind him, and it really was the TOS injury and not something mental. And so at that point, if you're the Sixers, you almost kind of say, well, let's see what he's like, because he might be the missing piece that you're talking about that they need.
Yeah, look, I think I agree with Amin. You have to get him out there so you can at least try to get something in return that you're never going to get equal value. You're always going to get pennies on the dollar. Right. But at this point, you're getting like pesos on the dollar. So it's just not one of those.
Why you got to be like that?
Well, I'm just saying, it's a different kind of money. So it's one of those deals where they're in a really tough position. But Raymond Brothers is not helping them, or I think his client, to be honest, in this situation, because he's just putting more pressure on the kid. And the pressure, maybe in some people's minds, has gotten to him a little bit.
It's always hard for me because I'm always like, well, what's the trade for, right?
Right, yeah.
Should we
You got to
trade
tell
him?
me.
I don't know. Are you trading me James Harden? Yes, you should trade him. Are you trading me, like, a future second rounder and blah, blah?
Would you take a solid NBA shooter, not any sort of superlative, if that deal were presented to you and you were the Sixers?
I mean, gosh, here's what I think. I think the money they spent, quote unquote, on that, spending the number one pick, sending the draft pick to Boston, that money is spent. So I would not say, hey, I spent all this, I got to stick with him. I would say, look, I have this asset now, however I acquired it, and is it going to get me something enough in return where I think I can make a run?
See, that's interesting because my standpoint is you spend, it's not a sunk cost. We put all this in, and if he was 28, 29, you'd be like, it's a wrap.
Right.
He's 20, 21 years old. There's still an element of, man, he could turn this around and be really good.
I just want to know what I'm getting for him.
But it depends on some of the stuff we were just discussing, right? If Embiid is chafed, right? If Jimmy, who can be a free agent, leaves, right? Like, you don't want that to be the case. So you want to surround those guys with the best possible players to put them in positions to succeed. They clearly need spacing because you said Embiid is floating out. He's not in proper position. So maybe you do try to deal him for maybe not one, but maybe 2, 3 and D type of players that you can plug and play.
You think you get 2?
I mean, you at least try. But at least you can try.
That's my thing.
I mean, that could be the asking price. I would start there.
I just think that if you're Elton Brand, the position you take is, hey, if someone gives me a good enough offer, I'll deal him. So go ahead, try to make me a good enough offer. But I don't have to deal him.
Correct.
So I'm not desperate. I'm not going to just take whatever I have to take. I'm not in one of these positions where we've seen some teams recently where they got to give Kawhi. The Spurs had to make a deal for Kawhi Leonard last summer, and at some point they had to just go with the best one. That's not the position Elton is in with Markelle Fultz. I think he makes it known, hey, he's available. If you give me something good, he could go, but it's got to be good.
Pat Riley's on the phone. How about Wayne Ellington and Rodney McGruder?
Hey,
what do you think?
Wayne's from Philly.
Pat Riley's not on the phone.
Yeah, he's gonna put out a statement.
Don't put out a statement, Pat. We're all good.
Tim Donovan. With you, that has to be qualified. Coming up, we will discuss LeBron James talking about recruiting and how his level of play is going to be part of whether he can get a big-time free agent to join the Lakers. LeBron one-on-one coming.